Consultation Podcast Network.
Hey guys, welcome back to Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from cultsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
And we are back with an episode that is directly related to New Year's Eve / New Year's Day. We are done with our Christmas Festivus series.
Unfortunately, episode shy.
Yeah, we normally do 4 for our series to round out the month. But we didn't make it. Snowstorms and stuff.
It's been miserable up here of late.
It has been. Yeah.
It's like this miserable cold can go away. I'm fine with the cold itself, but it's the fact that my skin doesn't like it, and I've been literally just like covering myself from head to toe from like the start of the day in like lotion.
You gotta. Otherwise you're gonna dry the hell out.
Yeah. It's terrible.
I know. But we're back. This time we have never really done a New Year's special. Never done a New Year's. Well, here's the thing. Not very many New Year's movies that I can think of. Can you?
No, not really.
I mean, there may be some that have New Year's in them, but I can't think of any that are really like New Year's.
I just always think of Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, just like one-off parts of movies, but nothing that like the focus of the movie is New Year's. Except for the one that we're doing today, which is the 1980 slasher New Year's Evil. Now, 1980 was really the start of the slasher craze, especially with those that would take the slasher formula and put it into holidays. So you would have had Halloween before that. But other than that, like, this was at the beginning of the holiday craze, where it's like, take a holiday and, you know, make a slasher film out of it. So in that regard, New Year's Evil is kind of a purveyor of the genre. However,
I was thinking about it. Was Friday the 13th ever a thing, like a sign of bad luck before the series, or?
I think it was, and the reason I say that is because
13 just has
negative connotations in general. I mean, I think it was, and only because when you look at Friday, I mean, there would have been what other reason would they have had to pick Friday the 13th as the day?
Sounds good.
I guess
Wednesday the 9th.
No, I think it's always been kind of a thing.
Tuesday
just
the 24th.
Not as big of a thing until after that occurred. But it's always been like a superstitious.
You know, the next thing would be to do now is to like combine sports and holidays. So like Monday Night Killing, you know.
Hey, that's a good idea. Yeah, what would it be? Just like take place in an entire football game or something like that.
There's like a Monday Night Football serial killer running around.
I feel like that would end pretty quickly. I think what would be more interesting is if you took a Monday night game, just one, and set the entire film around it. Like had the slasher hold the entire
stadium hostage.
That would be kind of fun, actually. It's a good idea. You should pitch that.
Friday night deaths. You know.
There you go. Yeah.
High school football instead.
Oh, yeah. Right up the You should if you wanted to bring back like 90s slashers, you could pitch that to them and have it be like not even. I mean, set it during the 90s, like you know what I mean. That would be a kind of a fun one to do, and you could even make it kind of humorous. Like not even you don't have to like go full on.
Are you talking about the Monday night or the high school Friday night?
High school Friday night.
Oh, every time when someone's getting stabbed, we're going to be hearing little explosions in the sky in the background, you know, to set the mood.
That sounds like a fun one, actually. I think that has room to grow. That could blossom into something. No, but we're talking about, so New Year's Evil, I feel like it doesn't really get that much recognition. It's not one of those films where a lot of people are like, hey, have you caught New Year's Evil? You hadn't seen it, right, before this one?
Nor heard of it, and I think there's reasons why.
I had only seen it one time. Scream Factory released it on Blu-ray not too long ago. I think maybe just a year ago they released it, and that's when I caught it. And I thought it was an interesting slasher. I won't say like a good slasher or anything like that, but I thought it was an interesting slasher. Taking that idea of New Year's Eve and doing something with it. And as we'll talk about in the show, I don't know how successful it is at really setting it around New Year's Eve or even giving a motivation for why it's set around New Year's Eve.
I think it's better than most.
What's better than most? The motive or
the whole the premise of it?
Oh, like the idea
of why it takes place on New Year's Eve. I think. I mean, I think actually what it does with, you know, the idea is a good one, especially for a slasher film. I think it is pretty creative. I think the whole problem, though, is going to be, you know, execution. Yeah,
I agree. I think like this could have gone somewhere with the idea.
It's much better than like Leprechaun.
Yeah,
you know,
or some of those others that are literally just set around the day just because. I'm thinking, you know, some of them, they just want it to be on a holiday. And there wasn't really much thought put into like, well, what does it mean to actually have it set on the holiday? They didn't really think about that. They're just like, well, you know, we'll say it takes place on April Fool's Day. We'll say it takes place during, you know, on her birthday. And it didn't really matter to the film, really, that it was taking place on a specific holiday.
Columbus Day is going to be the next one.
Yeah.
That would, you know what, that'd be great, actually.
You're really pissed off about Columbus getting some recognition.
Or you can do it the other way around. Like, they're pissed off because, you know, how dare you celebrate Christopher Columbus for being a genocidal asshole.
Yeah, and so they want to, like, prove that it's not a good thing to celebrate a killer.
Or you could, you know, have it the other way around. See, like, you got the first and second film right there.
Wow, we should start our own production company. Pay somebody to make them and live off of the proceeds from it.
Be good. Bring back the Grindhouse films.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how these all started, too. It's just like, again, coming up with like, well, someone else did a holiday. We should do one, too. However, I will say that I think New Year's Evil is a little bit more than that. Like, and at that point in 1980, there wasn't really much to go off of. It wasn't like that was that became a staple point of the genre. Even in this film, you'll see that it kind of circumvents some of the established slasher norms that would come about in the later 80s. Like, there's not a lot of sex equating to death in here. And there is a little bit, but it's not to the point of where, like, everybody...
It is, though, for, like, the main...
The main premise is sort of like that, I guess. But I would say that that's not, like, whenever a kill takes place, it doesn't always happen around, like, teenagers having sex.
He's still targeting women.
He has a different mindset for why he's targeting women,
but it's still both sexual and like an inferiority complex. So
yeah,
it's still like the same thing, but they're not blatant about it. It's not,
they're not saying like
There's only like a couple of times, like in the opening, for no reason at all. Like someone's passing by in a van, and a girl's got like her big old titties just hanging out. Like it's New Year, you know. It's like whoa, must be nice driving down That's what Sunset Boulevard's like. We're gotta go out there.
Yeah.
And then, like, the couple at the drive-in, he's like, copping a feel as, like, her tits out, and she's like, come on, let's go, can we do something? And she's like, no, not till the next movie.
Yeah.
It's so nonchalant, so great.
I just don't see the theme being of like virginity as much in this one. I mean, there is something to do with inferiority complexes and chastity and adultery and stuff like that, but not to the extent where of some of the other slashers in the genre. So, but I think that's kind of an interesting thing. And sometimes when you watch these films and you haven't really seen a specific slasher, it's hard to put it into context of like where it would have occurred within the time period. Like I was just watching.
This definitely looks like it was late 70s, early 80s.
From the standpoint of like the music and the look of the people, yes. But like I'm just saying, if you were to like pop it in and you weren't sure what it was at that point, sometimes it's hard to get the context of it. I was just watching Christmas Evil the other day, which in a lot of ways reminds of Silent Night, Deadly Night. Except when you watch Christmas Evil, you find out that it was done before Silent Night, Deadly Night. And then they do have some significant differences. And then the same thing with To All a Good Night, which was another Christmas film that has a killer Santa in it. That has a very similar plot line to Friday the 13th. It has a twist ending that's almost exactly the same as Friday the 13th. Except To All a Good Night came first. Months first, but still first. So it's kind of interesting how that happens.
Do you ever think like maybe like the production companies at the time were just kind of sharing ideas?
Yeah, I don't really know.
Like, just like like so it's like, hey, what if this happened? Like, yeah, you can. Oh, that's our ending. Like, you do it too. And, like, we'll all make a shit ton of money.
It seems unlikely in this scenario because they wouldn't have wanted to give away Friday the 13th's like big twist. And To All Good Night really did not have much of a release or following or anything like that. So I'm thinking that Friday the 13th, it was a coincidence, and perhaps Friday the 13th either did not know about To All Good Night, which is, I could see that happening, or they did, and they just didn't see it as a threat because it was a very low budget film. Friday the 13th was clearly better in most aspects. So they were just like, whatever, it doesn't really matter to us. And most people probably haven't seen To All Good Night anyway. So, but it's interesting how like when you watch those slasher films now and you don't have a good context for when they came out, you might think like, oh, well, they copied this other film. And then you find out actually they didn't. It came before it. So, fun to go back and do a historical
retrospective.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break real quick, and we will talk about our beer that we have on the show because we do have a new one.
'Tis the season.
That's right. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, so today on the show, we have a new beer. We've had this brewing company before, and we actually have talked about them recently with their Canadian breakfast stout. We don't have a breakfast stout, because this was a 15-pack of cans released by Founders. And Founders is they've become notorious for releasing 15 packs of IPAs. I think the last 4 15 packs of cans that they've released have been IPAs. Like they did they did the All Day IPA. They've done the Mosaic Hop IPA. I think there was another one that was an IPA, but I don't remember. Yeah, it was the Centennial IPA. And now they've got their Azaka IPA.
The only one I've seen that hasn't been been an IPA is the PC Pills.
Yes.
Which is a hopped Pilsner. So.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in a similar fashion, but just not. I don't know why. Is it like the IPA like in high demand? So they're like 15 packet. Just 15 packs of cans.
It's craft brew, like as we've said 1,000 times, it's craft brewing in general. It's got a hard on for, IPAs, and they got to be everywhere.
Yeah, I guess. But the one that we have today is the 15-pack can of Azaka IPA. The Azaka IPA I've never had before. And from what I know, I've never really had the Azaka hop before. It's a particular style of hop. It's named after the Haitian god of agriculture. So fun fact for you.
That's very hipstery.
Yes. And, I like this hoppy beer. I think it's an interesting take on an IPA. It does have a different style and different taste to it. One thing is it's 7% and 70 IBUs, so it's not on the super high range of bitterness, but
it's up there.
It is up there.
70 is quite a bit. I would compare it to Sierra Nevada's Torpedo quite a bit, actually. The main difference between the two, I would say, though, is Sierra Nevada's Torpedo Double IPA, more piney. And I think that's because of, the West Coast hops in it. And I think the hop in this, at least, isn't as piney. It's just a little bit more overall citrusy.
Yeah. The can describes it as a citrus and mango flavored hop. I don't know if I get a lot of mango from it. Citrus character for sure. Maybe not so much mango.
It's a little slight.
They also say it has a touch of caramel malt.
Not getting.
I don't get the
malt. I can't really pick up because it's so damn hoppy.
Yeah, I don't get much caramel from it. However, I gotta say that I do find this a pretty drinkable beer. I crushed a few on Christmas. Quickly felt them after 3 mimosas in the morning and then a couple more Founders as Azacca IPAs in the afternoon. But I felt it was a pretty easy drinking beer, so I can understand why they might release it in a 15-pack. And I also see why and I think the Azacca pack has been out before. I've never really picked it up, but I see why it's been now readily available in the winter because they are trying to market it as sort of a winter IPA with the citrus hop character and the caramel malts, which, as we said, we don't really get that much. But I can see it as a sort of winter IPA. I think it's hard. It seems a little hardier to me than some of the others, like the All Day IPA, which is a very easy drinking, light, meant to be a session IPA. But I think this Azacca IPA is pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
I know you're kind of sick of IPAs, so
yeah. I like it. I do think it's pretty good. But I do get, like I said, I would compare it similarly to Sierra Nevada's Torpedo IPA, which if you had that before, this is a lot like it because the alcohol percent's about the same, the IBUs are about the same. I think the main difference, like I said, between the two is with Sierra Nevada Torpedo, you get a lot pine solly, overwhelming hop taste. In this, it's more citrusy, but it's still a very hoppy beer, pretty heavy. It is drinkable because it's crisp and goes down pretty easy. But if you're not a fan of IPAs, you're not gonna like this beer at all.
Yeah, I do get that Torpedo sense as well. Now that you mentioned it, I think that's pretty spot on with what the Azacca IPA is, with just some differences to it. But I like it, and I've got to say that I've liked pretty much every Founders beer that I've had so far.
I haven't had one that I don't like.
Yeah, I think they make a very consistently good beer, and I've never really had one either that was middling to me, where I was just like,
That ESB we had fucking like 5-6 years ago is like still chasing like the pink dragon.
Yeah,
that we got at the Old English pub on tap, and haven't seen it ever since. I've never saw it in bottles or cans or anything around here. It's like,
wish you could find it.
I know. I wish I could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Founders make some really good stuff, and there's still some that I want to track down, like the Kentucky Breakfast Stout. Really want to find that. We were lucky enough to get the Canadian Breakfast Stout while it was still available. And the
normal breakfast.
Yeah, their regular breakfast stout
is great.
It's amazing.
The Scotch ale, it's great.
I don't think I've ever had the Scotch ale.
It's really good. Dirty Scotch bastard.
I think I missed out on that one.
It's all available around here. It's year round. So
yeah,
but it's really good.
But then and then the rest of their IPAs that I've ever had, and
I was a big fan of the PC Pills too when we did that for that really good.
That was really good as well. Yeah. So I've never really had one that I disliked. Another thing that I had over the course of the Christmas break, we went to do our annual Drinking with the Cranks fun festivities, which is a...
Can put that in air quotes.
Yeah, fun and air quotes, because...
No, I meant the we.
Oh, yeah, you were not there. You were not present. You had to work that next day. Mm-hmm. However, I mean, it's fun is also in air quotes because it's not I wouldn't call it a particularly fun time. It's a entertaining time that you have to endure. It's like a yearly tradition, like almost like a sadomasochistic thing you have to endure. Because it's kind of like a power hour, I would say. Because you're pretty much drinking probably a shot a minute.
I think a power hour's worse. They're both bad, but power hours are miserable.
Yeah, this one's spread out over an hour and 40 minutes, so you get a little bit more time to digest. But for the most part, never drink anything heavy. But what I had for it was Brown's, which is a local brewing company in Troy, New York, and Albany, New York, I think, right? They have one in Albany. They make a hibiscus moonwalk beer, which is basically it's like a gose with hibiscus in it. And that was one of them that I had. Do not recommend for...
How is it every year our friend Kevin is the one that brings the stuff from Brown's because he lives out in Troy?
This is my fault this time. I requested it.
Oh, you did?
I did,
I was going to say, because it's every year the Drinking with the Cranks is happening. He has brought something in a growler from there that does not fit the game. The first year was a strong ale.
This time I requested it.
Last year, I think it was like a brown ale or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. So, yeah.
This year I requested it. I requested the hibiscus moonwalk and the...
You should have requested him to bring you also a French dip sandwich from Brown's.
Yeah, those are tasty.
Delicious.
But I requested the hibiscus moonwalk, which is a gose. It was good, but I would not recommend it to like do a drinking game with. And then also the blackberry blonde ale, which again was good. It's not super sour.
That sounds great. I would love that.
It's not super sour, but it does tend more towards a ghost territory.
I would like it though.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've said before, I've grown to like ghosts more. The thing is, the fruit that they use for it is going to kind of hinge on whether I like it or not. And I love blackberries, so that would be right up my alley. You'll be proud. I'm really starting to get into enjoy wine now. It's not really
good.
Not really when I've been trying a few glasses, like here, try this, try that. I'm like kind of making a face, but it's like, yeah, I could drink that.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. Now you're starting to see the appeal.
Pretty soon I'll be eating butter pecan ice cream and Werther's Originals candies, being an old man.
Right now, what do you prefer, white or red?
White.
Really? Wrong answer. I'm a red guy through and through.
It has more... Well, granted, these have been like cheap wines too, all of them, so, but I mean...
Well, the redder, you're going to get more of like a vinegary taste to it almost.
And... the thing, and like with the dryness too on either one, it all depends on my mood. Like if I'm like feeling a certain way, I may prefer like the wine to be like drier. If I just want to kind of just drink and kind of drink the wine itself and like not really care, then don't make it dry really. But like I said, by no means a connoisseur. Not even an apprentice. Still like in the recruiting process, but
You're getting there.
Starting to finally get there.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. That's nice. Why don't you tell us about your beer drinking this weekend?
Spent $28 on a 12-pack of Heineken Light and a Heineken Magnum bottle. For those who don't know, the Heineken Magnum bottle is the special Christmas and New Year's bottle that Heineken's released. It's a big old 50.7 ounce champagne bottle or something. It's 50 something ounces. Because I looked up online, because I'm like, how many ounces? Because it doesn't say the ounces on it. It says a liter and something. So I looked up online because I wanted to know roughly how many beers were in it. It's just over 4. And yeah, I got it. I like Heineken. I prefer Heineken Light actually now more than I like Heineken. Just because Heineken always seems to be a crapshoot. in like how it tastes. Heineken Light's always been consistent, no matter if I get it in a can or a bottle. Heineken's always like, if I don't get it in the glass bottle, like fresh off the line, it's gone awry, like Newcastle.
And you're right with the 50.7 ounces.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, my memory's fucking amazing. But yeah, so I literally got it just for the novelty, and for me and you to drink. Not in Christmas, but you were having your Christmas dinner where I thought you were, so I didn't get to go out, and so me and someone else drank it, and it was alright. Even though it's still in a bottle, it still had like a tinny taste to it, like the Heineken keg, which was disheartening. Still drank it, but it's disheartening.
That's weird. I wouldn't expect it to have a tinny taste to it.
But and it also helped too because it'd been sitting in my garage for like 2 days. And I didn't let it warm up enough, so it was still fucking pretty super cold. So that kind of numbed the taste of it overall, because, it's been sitting in negative 10 degree conditions.
Did it actually pop when you did the cork?
Yeah.
Nice.
Did
you shake it up and blast it all over some hoe's chest?
Thought about it.
Yeah.
Didn't do it, though.
Oh, man. There's always New Year's.
It's coming up.
As we'll talk about in the show, there's always New Year's.
We'll have to play my cards right and see how that goes, because the bottles are still going to be out, so I'll have to, grab a couple.
You know what? Yeah, I do want to grab one.
It's $10.
Yeah.
So for $10 for 4 Heinekens, it's a little it's overpriced, because if the 4-pack of the 16-ounce cans that they do, the pint cans, that's like $6.99, $7.99. So it is overpriced.
So a little bit over.
But you're getting, like, the novelty.
You get the schmancy.
You're literally paying for the novelty of it. It's like a holiday champagne bottle. You get to twist, the little metal part off and then twist the cork off. And
I just looked on the Heineken website and it's like, it's the perfect way to celebrate the holidays. With the Magnum bottle. Bring it with you. Bring it to your friend's house.
I know. Well,
they'll be impressed.
I know, that's what I did.
All right. Is that it for beer talk?
Yeah, I haven't had anything new. Nothing's been speaking to me.
All right. I just say that because I really want to get into New Year's Evil. Because it's an amazing film.
Great.
It's amazing.
Best soundtrack ever.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the only reason why you watch New Year's Evil, right? You want to catch the band Shadow that no one's ever heard of.
And Made in Japan.
And Made in Japan that no one's ever heard of. They were really... this movie was a real breakout for them. You can tell. They went on to do many things after. Well, here's the thing. We'll start off by saying that our intro is obviously the theme to New Year's Evil.
I'm telling you, it sounds like it could have been... Like, if they took the lyrics out from it, it could have been Death Wish 2's theme. Like, Jimmy Page before he... yes, if you haven't listened to our Death Wish retrospective, yes, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin did do the theme song for Death Wish 2. It's like he was watching New Year's Evil.
Well, he did the whole soundtrack, and he was all over the place.
Dark times.
Yeah.
But, it's like he was listening, like, almost, at least to me, it sounds like they sound similar. Just like, wow, that would totally fit.
I think it was in the time period thing. It was a time...
that too, but I'm just saying, like, it's...
And it was definitely inspired by real life celebration of New Year's Eve. Because the entire film is set around this celebration of New Year's Eve wherein...
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. Apparently a very, very popular punk rock show of
New Wave.
Yeah, sorry, New Wave. New Wave show of live music hosted by Blaze.
Such a great early... Like,
and her real name is Diane.
Blaze Sullivan's the host. Yeah, she's like 50 years old.
Yeah.
And she's trolloping around in like a... again, like, it looks like after you watch this film, it's almost like Cyndi Lauper must have watched this movie and like, that is the look I gotta go for.
I'm going for it.
Ridiculously dyed hair, makeup that's caked on to look ridiculous. She looks fucking ridiculous in this movie.
You don't like the getup?
She looks terrible.
Do you think...
The makeup is god-awful. She looks like a fucking clown with all that,
Do you think that in real life, not in real life, but in movie real life, Diane Sullivan, not Blaze, but Diane Sullivan, does she go out in public and she's wearing, like, the makeup she's on with the show, or does she wear just like normal makeup, or like not have teased crazy redheaded hair?
I think she probably sticks to the act, sticks to the gimmick.
Yeah.
Because she's very diehard in this about, like, you know, the show must go on, and what's going on?
I mean, one thing that I'll say that New Year's Evil does pretty well is show the two sides of her. Because Roz Kelly does a pretty good job in the beginning of this film of, like, downplaying, like, herself as Diane Sullivan versus herself as Blaze. Like, they are two different people. You can see that Diane is really putting on an act as Blaze. So it's not like it's her always. I think, like, in some ways, Blaze is meant to be like almost like an aging, like, I don't know, what we would consider a VJ or something like that now. Wherein, like, she did it in the 70s and she was pretty cool, and now she's kind of getting older. She's wanting to get out of that phase.
She's not even a VJ.
No.
It's like literally like Dick Clark's bandstand, except for, you know, punk and new wave.
Yeah, basically, it is like a bandstand. Yeah, New Year's Evil, the show.
I mean, it's like, again, not only that, I'd say it's, again, like Midnight Special from, you know, the 70s, but the difference is they got, you know, a hotline added to it, so you can call and,
yeah,
you know, request things and, you know, vote for your favorite song of the year. What's your favorite song? I like that song that's called We Don't Need No Education. All right, thanks for calling in. Couldn't get the rights.
I don't know that song. What's the actual song title? Oh, we're not allowed to say that? Okay. All right. No. Okay. We'll just call it We Don't Need No Education then. No, I think that the film...
I wonder if Pink Floyd, if they actually did say Pink Floyd's another brick in the wall, they'd be like, hey, you owe us some money. Because it was the biggest song in 1979. The Wall was the #1 album.
It's entirely possible. I think they tried to stay away from that.
But I almost feel like, though, at that point, after Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Roger Waters and David they got their money.
I mean,
leave the movie that was shot on no budget alone. Just like
it just seems like they intentionally like left that out because they knew that they couldn't say it.
Well, they would have gotten away if they said, like, what's your favorite song of the year? Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Refugee, because he would have been like, I don't fucking care. You want to put it in the movie? Go right ahead.
Yeah, doesn't really fit with the nature of their music, though.
Yeah, it does. They were originally they were when they broke out. They were originally considered new wave.
That seems
they were mislabeled.
Yeah, it seems like an erroneous label.
They were mislabeled, but when they broke out in '76 because they had the album cover. He's in a leather jacket and like all the album artwork and like the liner notes. They're wearing like leather jacket and leather pants. They were considered new wave and punk. But that's the thing, though, because even by this time, because new wave and punk's been around by like 5-6 years by, you know, 1980.
Yeah.
People have kind of been able to sort out and figure out what's what, you know. This movie doesn't do that. And I find it kind of hilarious how, like, you know, Shadow looks punk, supposed to be new wave, and they're, like, doing, like, hair metal songs.
Yeah, they do, like, some power metal, hair metal ballads.
Like, you know, like, mix of, like, Judas Priest and, like... early Def Leppard. It's great.
Whereas Made in Japan really does cater more towards the punk / new wave ideas that they're... I really think they would have been better off going with a Made in Japan song for New Year's Evil. Except, apparently, for whatever reason, Shadow was the one that was supposed to write the New Year's Evil song. And they ended up coming up with some sort of, like, hair metal piece.
Well, I think they're on the same label as this movie was produced on, so that's why they got
canon.
Yeah, so because they do say the soundtrack is at the end credits is available. And
well, what I like about this though is that the opening scene of New Year's Evil is pretty important because, as I was saying before, Roz Kelly does do a pretty good job of transitioning between who she is as Diane and who she is as Blaze. So as Diane, she has a kid, she has a husband. Her kid is somewhat obsessed with her in a very awkward way, and it's because she doesn't give him enough attention.
Taboo was big at the time.
Yeah. And then she has a husband as well. And then once you get into her act as Blaze, you see that she's more of a, I don't know, I would say the risque person. She's more willing to be outgoing and kind of off the cuff, And so that really translates to what New Year's Evil is trying to do, is show why the killer has an obsession with Blaze and Diane specifically, because they're trying to prove a point here on New Year's Eve. And they are doing it by creating a gimmick. And the gimmick being that they're going to kill someone that Diane or Blaze would be knows or and somehow is related to every hour when it turns New Year's Day in each of the 3 locations that the show is broadcasting. So they're broadcasting from...
Well, they have each time zone like to check in. So they have so they have New York, then Chicago, then Aspen, Colorado, with a guy who sounds like he's from fucking Montgomery, Alabama. Like, well, up here in Aspen, Colorado, we got that, 3, 2, 1, but like Boomhauer.
We're checking in here. We got a bunch of people skiing down here with flames and torches.
Drunkenly singing Auld Lang Syne, woo, daddy.
Yeah.
Do people even still do that?
What's that?
Sing like Auld Lang
Syne?
Yeah.
It is tradition to play it at the end of the
I know, but I don't
ball dropping.
I never knew the fucking word. Like, just, they like just drift off,
Well, I'm not sure how many people actually... I think it's more of a... But, yeah, I think people know the tune, at least. But in this film, one thing that is really funny is that they just pick randomly Aspen, Colorado. And no one there, it's, you see Times Square New Year's Eve, and people are, like, roaming around in the streets, huge crowd.
And again, not only that, the funniest thing about that whole thing is like, yeah, we're here in Times Square, and people have been getting here since 5 o'clock today. And it's like, 5 o'clock at night? Wow. Times have... In 37 years, times have changed. People are fucking camping out like 3 days early. Like, I gotta be here.
I'm sure people are there now.
Stupid.
Waiting for the ball to drop. But they've got that, they got Times Square. People are milling around in crowds and streets. Same thing with Chicago. People are milling around in the crowd. And then in Aspen, Colorado, people are skiing down the mountain. They're carrying torches.
Well, to be fair, to be fair, like, if you did have to pick a city out of the mountain times, like, its own, like, what are you gonna pick? Phoenix? Lake Tahoe?
Phoenix would be a good pick.
Salt Lake City?
I just think that I find Aspen, Colorado to be a very random pick. I don't know.
No, it is random. They should have just skipped over the mountain. Like, fuck you, you don't get your own.
You don't get your own. No one really cares about mountain time.
So, like, we got East, Central, and then Western.
Yeah. Well, I think that, but the idea of the film is that he's going to kill in each of the time zones when it hits midnight one new person and then broadcast it to Blaze, who's on TV, live TV. And so the effect is kind of, the idea is chilling, right? It's kind of spooky that he would go out of his way, go to all this length just to make sure that he's going to kill one person every time it turns midnight. And the film does show that for quite a bit. As our killer, who is unmasked, we see him clearly. We know who he is the entire time throughout the film.
That is kind of, I will say it's a flaw in this film.
Yeah.
The fact that he's just kind of bumbling about, like, as, like, some just, like, random guy. There's no...
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Just let me finish the thought. But he's unmasked, he's going around, he's killing these people, and the film does kind of bring that up for a little bit. Like, he's very, like, OCD about being on time. He's like, we're supposed to be here at 10 o'clock, and we're fucking not here yet. Which,
that is funny. That part's funny. Like, just him, like, twiddling his thumbs at, like, getting pissed off. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I gotta, this bitch is ruining my night. Oh.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about now about the killer himself. Just imagine, like,
Michael Myers, like, if he was, like, just kind of, like, oh, you done yet?
Yeah,
you done, like, taking a shit in there?
Because,
let's go.
The difference between this film and other slashers is that we do have that unmasked killer. We do see him all the time. We know we know his face. We don't know who he is per se, like what his connection to Blaze is.
You should get this in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, there's definitely a connection there that you could figure out, but the film doesn't come out and explicitly tell us until practically the end of the film. But I think that in some ways, it is successful to have him unmasked because then we get a lot of great cinema.
Constant wardrobe changes.
Yep. Yeah. The wardrobe changes are the things that really make me laugh because the first couple of killings, our killer is not seen at all. But besides by the actual victim, he's not seen. So the wardrobe changes are completely unnecessary, and they seem just like a way for either the film to just kind of have fun with it, or more so like the killer himself to just feel like he's a lot more, he's smarter than he really is, really. Because the wardrobe changes are completely unnecessary. No one has seen him. And that adds to the hilarity because my favorite one is the disco killer.
Oh God, yeah.
That's the best one because the concept of him thinking, well, I'm going to go to a disco bar. I absolutely have to have a fake mustache to go into this place. People are going to be suspicious if I don't have a mustache going into this disco bar. That is the best to me because the mustache itself is unnecessary. It really doesn't add much to the disguise whatsoever.
He looks like he belongs in there to begin with. Like he'd be the guy that's like, yeah, you know.
Well, that's the thing. I think that Kip Niven looks pretty good with that fake mustache, and it almost seems like he should always have it. Like that's just his natural, like, face. Yeah. That he should always have a mustache because it fits pretty well. And I feel like he had a good time putting it on. Because there's that whole scene where he's gluing it to his face. And the killer's just like, yeah, this looks good. He's like having a blast with it. I love that. It's the best. That's the best scene by far for me. It's just seeing like him thinking, well, I'm going to a disco bar. There's going to be people with mustaches there. I got to blend in.
I mean, I think my favorite scene is just watching the young youths partying to the music at the Hollywood Hotline. And they're dancing like they're fucking shambling zombies in Dawn of the Dead. Just like,
oh yeah, especially when the slow scenes.
Yeah, and there's like, it's like that to me is like the best part of the whole movie. Because not only that, because halfway again we talked about it too, like how the movie kind of misses the mark with the music. At one point, they're playing blues, like they're just playing a slow like blues song, and they're all just like tripping, like look like they're tripping out on X, and like they belong in Dawn of the Dead at the end, like just to wander and shamble around the mall because they're literally just shambling about. They're not even like dancing, they're not even in rhythm. That to me is like ties with the mustache like being put on. Well, right up there. It's great. It's comedy gold.
I think the music itself, while it is definitely like supposed to be a focal point of the film, one thing that's distracting to me about the music is that never does the scene seem to fit with the music. Like whenever the kids are dancing, like the punks are dancing, it just never fits with what's going on in the music. And I feel like that's just a directing thing. Like when they were pairing it, and probably for the most part when those scenes were shot, there was no music. They were like,
you can tell.
You know what I mean?
You can tell the bands are pantomiming.
Yeah, it was hey, pretend like we're playing. So you could just tell, like everything looks very fake and set up. Like just shuffle around, just pretend like there's music going on. And
I love it when like you have people like lip sync or pantomime like instruments, and it's like guitar solo part, and they're just kind of sitting there like. You know, like when the guitar solo is going on, or there's not like it's just a regular rhythm part for guitar, and they're like sitting there noodling about, come on, we know you're not doing that. Come on.
I think that's the most distracting thing about New Year's Evil because there are some scenes that do get it right, but I think a lot of the dancing itself is just it doesn't look like they really had anything playing, and they just had to make it up as they went along, and that's distracting to me because the film is all about music. It's really, first and foremost, like an elongated music video for Shadow's theme to New Year's Evil. I mean, the music gets... That soundtrack theme gets played like 4 times. It gets played at the beginning of the film. It gets played literally 4 minutes later after the beginning of when the credits are done. Then it gets played like for a third time, like towards the end of the film, and then the end credits are that song as well. It's like they got their money's worth. They're like, how much did we pay for this? How much is our budget? We're using that song as much as possible. Made in Japan, they're like, we'll give you a couple bucks to play a couple of your songs, but
It's so awesome. I love it. I want to know, though, why Kip Niven dressed as a fucking...
a priest?
Yeah.
That costume really did not play much of a role at all, did it?
And not only that, so, like, who was he supposed to kill?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the goal was there, because he kind of gets...
He's looking at a picture, so I'm assuming it's some nun he's supposed to
Yeah,
kill.
that's what it's...
But he gets thrown off track because he actually hits a gang of bikers, because it's this, you know...
It's L.A., it's 1979,
you know...
and there are bikers just milling around everywhere.
Bronson hasn't got there yet. He's still stuck in Chicago. He's, you know, driving around O'Hare Airport just gunning people down. So you gotta wait until, you know, 83 when he gets there for Death Wish 2. So, you know.
I didn't realize that in L.A. there was just so many of these, like, punky kids just roaming around.
Not only that, it's not just L.A., it's Hollywood.
Yeah. Just roaming around.
Yes.
Rejects from the Misfits, just... all over the place. Then when you don't have those punks, you got biker gangs. I really think that it's funny how the film tends to bring up the fact from the police officers, and it's really a very, like, small part of the film, but it does bring up a couple times how these punks are rebellious, and the police are like, well, you caused the problem. You have a punk rock show. This is the problem. You know, you look what you've created here. A bunch of monsters. A bunch of killers. Because of your punk rock show. It's pretty funny. And then there's another scene where the cops get up on stage to announce that
and the kids are just like, boo, boo, fuck the cops,
Yeah.
boo.
It's
and he's like, shut up.
It's a really small part of the film, but it is pretty funny just to see, because I don't really know. I don't think that the creators of New Year's Evil were really like punk rockers. It doesn't seem like it from the
3 seconds that we watched of the interview of the director. Now in modern times, and the way he looks, he doesn't look like he would have been part of that scene at all. He's too dapper.
I mean, it just doesn't seem like they were really in the scene. More so that they were in. I mean, they were inspired by the scene and trying to cash in on it. So I think that all comes into play with New Year's Evil. I think one of the bigger flaws with this film too is that it's really slow. It's a very like plotting film.
It's an hour and a half.
And it's actually only 85 minutes long. But it's a really plotting film. Part of that's because the film doesn't make much use of the killer outside of him doing a couple things with his victims. Even a lot of the death sequences are not shot on film, but they're actually off screen, and then characters find the bodies later on. There is an amazing scene though where Kip Niven jumps out of a dumpster, lighting his face up with a lighter, and
he drags the woman in there to kill her.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because the way that it's shot is the great part of it, because you get his mustache in full glory.
It's just like, surprise, motherfucker.
But I would say that most of the kill scenes are really not very entertaining.
Lackluster, dull, uninspired.
Yeah. And the film doesn't really know how to pace itself very well. And part of that is because it's trying to incorporate so many like stupid music numbers.
Well, because they got to constantly check back in at the Hollywood Hotline.
Yeah.
What's going on there? And then they go to him and like he's talking in a phone booth. Which, by the way, is this like one of the first movies to have like a killer with like a voice distortion?
One of the first, probably not, but it's an interesting voice distortion, that's for sure. I think that the interesting part of it is that it sounds like somebody else that I can't quite pinpoint, but the voice sounds similar to someone that I'm in my memory sounds like that. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's the first, but I think it's an interesting take on the killer. It's necessary because Blaze would obviously know the voice if she actually heard.
Well, not only that though, but because for the most part, killers in slasher films are either masked or anonymous. in this one it's not. So the voice distortion, you're right, it does make sense. So trying to think prior to this, any film that, where that would really be the case. Where, a killer would have, distort their voice.
Yeah, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there was probably some before this. One thing that I think you were right about when you brought up was that it's not always a great idea to have the killer's identity revealed, like right from the get-go. Because I think that knowing who the killer is does take a lot of the tension out of the film itself when we're trying to switch between him doing the kill and going back to Blaze in the hotel, because part of the suspense comes from Blaze not knowing who it is that's doing the killing.
And the victims then being stalked and...
And then her herself being in the hotel and not knowing if she's surrounded by somebody who could be doing it, because she knows that they're trying to get into the hotel. The plan is probably to kill her at midnight in LA, but we already know who the killer is. So following that is the suspense is kind of lost on that, I think. Not that I find New Year's Evil suspenseful in the least anyway. It's more comedic than anything. I don't know. I don't even know that that's intentional. I think that some of it was very unintentionally comedic, but it just plays that way. Like one scene I'm thinking of is when he does kill the two women that he's bringing to the liquor store, and they find the one hanging from a swing, and then they find another one, and she slides down the slide in a park right when they find her. And it's like, oh, that was perfect timing on the killer's part to figure out when they would find this body.
And how, the time it would take for gravity to be like, all right, you're coming down.
She's coming down, yeah. That's, but I think that this film is mostly unintentionally funny.
I mean, yeah, no, you're right, because that's not just like a lot of films do stuff like that,
Of the, surprise body, just dropping in.
Well, not like that. The first kill, the girl's in the closet. It's not even really that dark in the closet, nor a deep closet. You mean to tell me she doesn't notice the body in the back until she turns on the light?
Yeah.
That's like, all right.
Stretching belief there. But I do think that some of the film is kind of clever in the way that it gets from one location to the other. So you have your costume changes with Kip Niven, and then you also have a lot of setting changes. That's kind of interesting. You go from
he's trolloping all. I want to know
he's
how
all over LA.
He's the SWAT team. He's just
all over the place. He goes to a sanitarium. He goes to drive-in.
Which, by the way they make the patients in the sanitarium look are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, just very
they go out of their
generically look how crazy they are.
Know, they go out of their way just to make them look like fucking, such loons. Don't they all?
That's where the worst of the worst go. To this one random sanitarium in LA.
Don't they all just need to be lobotomized? That's what they have them acting like.
Apparently, they already were. And they were like, shit, that didn't work. Put them all at whatever that sanitarium's called in LA. But he goes to the sanitarium. He goes to a drive-in. He goes to a disco. It's amazing. It's like the 70s and early 80s rolled into one film.
You're right. It is. A drive-in, a sanitarium.
Yeah, sanitarium. Not really referred to anymore as sanitariums.
Yeah, that's been,
That's kind of an archaic term.
It's a great word, though.
Sanitarium, yeah.
It just,
Well, it does have that connotation of being like, well, that's spooky.
Yeah, that
sanitarium.
That and the shitty place to go.
Yeah,
place where either like they send tuberculosis patients or where they
But I mean, it's like an encapsulation of the late 70s. In some ways, I mean, I guess that makes sense because we're into a new era. We're going from 79 to 80. I'm assuming that that's the intention in New Year's Evil. Released in 1980, probably 1979 to 1980 would have been the big celebration, new decade. And so that kind of, I guess that makes sense in that you're kind of showcasing all of the old and into the new. It's definitely a fun way to get around this film. You know, going from sanitarium to drive-in to seeing Blood Feast up on the drive-in.
Is that an actual movie?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's made by Canon then.
Yeah, it was Herschel Gordon Lewis film. But I think that's interesting. And what I found funny about the drive-in was that it's clearly just a trailer that they're showing, like an elongated trailer. But the woman's like, "That's
by elongated." You mean that's what the '70s were like? Trailers are 4 minutes long. They revealed everything in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? So when you went to see the movie, it's like, all right, now what's gonna happen? You know.
But then you have the girl in the car that's like, "No, I'm waiting till the next movie." It's like, bitch, you haven't even watched the movie yet.
I just love how disinterested she is, and like the guy, like, you know, fucking go round and second on her, just like, you know, that's all he's got his mind on is them boobies, you know, and squeezing them, and she's like, I don't fucking care, I just want to watch the movie. So no, you can't. We won't have sex, but if you want to keep squeezing my tit, go go right.
That's
ahead.
true. Well, she's smoking pot, so she's.
No,
good.
I know, but I'm just saying it is just funny because it's like, you know, it's like come on, let's do it. Like, no, not after, not until the next movie.
I think another favorite part of mine too is when Kip Niven is bringing one girl that he picked up from the disco to wherever he's going. I don't know. It's not really clear where he's actually trying to take her. But when he's in the car, she's going on and on about all of this 70s spiritual stuff that she's been doing. And
all I was missing was like Hare Krishnas.
Yeah.
And I ran into this
and you could just see him like becoming more and more
angry.
Yeah, disenthralled with this whole situation. Like I shouldn't have done this. I wanted to kill her, but I didn't realize I'd have to take like a 45-minute drive to do it.
Her friend's got nervous diarrhea.
Yes. She stops in a liquor store and they show that exchange between the liquor store clerk and her for no reason at all. Just and a very awkward one at that. The man seems like on New Year's Eve, this is the only sale he's had of like buying expensive champagne. That's it. He's like, thank you so much. He's like, this is the only sale he's had all night. He's like, we're barely floating by, but thank you for buying this expensive champagne.
It's like when you went in Napes and bought that one bottle of Mischief Make.
Yeah, and they're like, we never thought we'd get rid of this.
like, hey, you got any Mary Mischief? You want some?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We never thought we'd get rid of this beer. Yeah, it's a very awkward exchange. I don't know why it occurs in the film.
It's
really
funny,
unnecessary.
I also love it too because he's a tall man, and that fucking counter is like up to his knees. Just
oh yeah,
so low to the ground.
Well, the other thing too is, and we've talked about this on the show a couple times before, when somebody steals another person's outfit to become that, you know, to as that place. And it miraculously fits them. That happens in New Year's Evil as well. Because Kip Niven knocks out a particularly robust cop. And I would say much shorter than him as well. And then next thing you know, Kip Niven's wearing that police uniform comfortably. It's like, clearly he did not fit in that.
Nice and slim fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly he did not fit in that. The other thing that New Year's Evil does is it has the demented kid as well, which we talked about a little bit at the beginning, who's obsessed with his mother. His name is Derek. And it does seem like some of the other Christmas movies that we've seen before, like Silent Night, Deadly Night, wherein the child is traumatized and then becomes the murderer. And that's the case in this film as well. There's one scene where we find out that he probably does have some sort of issue where he takes his pills, his I'm guessing antipsychosis pills. They're giant horse pills, and when he puts them in his mouth, he doesn't actually swallow them.
No, you can
very clearly
see him like swishing them around his mouth as you're like, the pain.
Editors missed that one. What do you all right, so what do you think about the main conceit, the main twist of this film, being that Blaze or Diane's killer is actually her husband?
That was spotted 5 minutes in for me.
Not too hard to pinpoint?
That's, not a hard twist. It's Especially seeing as, like, you know, they specifically point out in the video, like, where's Dad? Like, oh, he's in Palm Springs. He's not feeling well, and, you know.
Yeah, they do make it...
And the fact that they're not hiding, you know, him as a killer, it's like, so who's the killer gonna be? Well, it can't be the son, because we see him at the hotel the entire time. Though, in this film, it could be possible for him to sneak out and, like, you know... Because he's, Dad's trolloping all over Hollywood.
I guess it could be possible.
But, I mean, the only logical, you know...
Yeah, the film doesn't really give you any other suspect. There's no one else. I mean, unless this is just some random killer, which I guess it could have been, but it would have really had no, like, bearing on the plot whatsoever. But there's no one else that it could possibly be besides her husband. That's it. It's not really a twist so much as just the inevitable.
Yeah. Well said. Well put.
I mean, I guess in some ways I understand the motive of why he's doing this, but I think that New Year's Evil does a pretty poor job of, like, explaining exactly why.
I think the motive's good. I think how they get there, though, like I said, it's all execution. Because the whole idea, I think, is cool. Why is he killing? Well, he has issues with women. He, you know, feels that the women around him are making him inferior, cutting his balls off, not making him a man, and they're tricking him and conning him, and they're, because, you know, they're whores, essentially, and all they do is lie, and they're deceitful. So, as an idea, that can work. The problem is, we don't ever see anything in the film that shows how because he's connected to the victim. Well, at least the first one he is. The next two, three, they don't explain how they're connected.
No connection. Yeah.
They just explain the first one how they're connected, so we don't really know how the other three were connected. But so we don't really get enough to show, like, so why does he feel that way? It's just like, oh, because he's also has mental problems. He was in the sanatorium too, and his wife, like, cut his allowance off. She didn't give him enough money, and now he's bitter. Not really, like, they should have given a lot more depth to that.
Yeah, I
Not
think...
only that, and the fact they just totally exposit dump that at the, like, tack that on at the end, like, as he's holding her hostage. It's like, okay, yeah, you really, like, didn't know what, you know...
Yeah, there was...
You're like, we're in a bind. We really don't know how to kind of explain. It's like, yeah, you know...
They just had to explain it in some way as quickly as possible. What would have countered that was with... Like, Richard showed up, and Diane was like, oh, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Or at least in some way made it seem like she didn't care about him. But that's not the case. When he's in the hotel room, she's like, oh, Richard! Gives him a giant big kiss. Doesn't seem like anything's wrong whatsoever. So really the only thing that you get as motive is actually more related to Derek, who's been consistently pushed aside at the beginning of the film, because Blaze is too busy doing her own show and has to get to the show rather than paying attention to Derek and what he's done, which is get a job he's got an acting job.
Lead role.
So it makes more sense, actually, to have the killer be Derek, because the rest of the film requires an exposition dump, because then Richard has to say, I talked to Derek. Derek told me that you didn't really care about him being an actor. Well, I'm pissed at you now because you didn't care about Derek being an actor. And then you were also an asshole to me, like, previously. So we really require all that exposition just to get to the point of, like, why Richard was doing all this stuff. And it doesn't work out in the way that it really should as New Year's Evil. I would be fine with just this being a random killer who's just like, I want to kill people on New Year's Eve in all locations. That would have been fine to me.
Well, it would have been fine, too, also, with that, having it be a random person with that same, reason for doing it that, Kip Niven has. Just make it a random stranger, because the idea, like I said, I think the idea is good. It's like, why is he doing it? Because by, midnight tonight, it's going to be the start of a new year. I've had a really bad year.
Right,
and
yeah.
Then, now I can change it.
More like
so that's like, it's like, hey,
it would be someone like that's obsessed with Blaze because they watch her show so much, they become obsessed with her, and then commit these crimes just because of that. I think that makes more sense too. than what we actually get. I just think that those stuff with having Richard be, spited and stuff like that, it requires too much exposition to actually be effective in the film. And then you're kind of left with a lot more questions than even something like Halloween, which doesn't really have any answers to why Michael Myers is targeting Laurie. There's no answer to it. It's just that it happens.
My biggest question with this film is what the fuck mask is Kip Niven wearing at the end?
Yeah, and who thought, like, why?
Is it supposed to be like Creepy Nixon or something?
Yeah, I don't particularly know exactly what they were looking for with that mask.
Because we know him throughout the entire. So why at the end is he trying to hide who he is? Like,
I'm not really sure.
What's the symbolism I'm supposed to gain from that? Gleam. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely. It almost seems more like they were like, well, other movies like this have had a mask, so we need one.
Well, yeah. The thing is, they should have had it on when he was doing the killings. Then,
right.
Would have gotten, the beautiful mustache and the priest outfit, but, it would have made more sense of him trolloping around, Hollywood with that mask on killing people than at the end when he's getting chased, like, oh, hold on, I gotta put my mask on.
The only thing that I can see that it does is eventually allow Derek to kind of take over that role, because at the end he has to put on the mask, and it doesn't make sense, but he has to put on the mask in order to drive the ambulance away.
And again, that's stupid too, because there's a fucking
there's like
media is outside looking right into the ambulance, taking pictures and flash photography.
No one's questioning, why is that ambulance driver wearing a ridiculous looking mask?
Isn't that EMT's going to have a hard time driving that thing to the hospital with that on? Who cares?
That's the only reasoning I can give as to why the film decided, in the last 10 minutes to be like, we need a mask.
Oh, that, or I'm thinking somebody accidentally bought a mask. Like, well, fuck it, you wasted $20 of our budget on a mask. We gotta shove it in there somewhere. We gotta make it worth that effort.
Do we ever actually see Kip Niven at the end of the film? Like, when they take off his mask? Do we see his face specifically? Maybe Kip Niven was not available at that time, so they're like, they had to do reshoots or something, and they were like, somebody's.
They shot in 18 days, so.
That's true, there's no. Yeah,
you can only get Kip Niven for 15 days. You couldn't get him for the whole 18, so.
I don't have an answer for the mask thing. Probably in, the director's commentary or something, they explain it, but I really don't know what the reasoning is for the mask at the end of the film. It seems like overkill at that point. Why?
I'm almost interested in the commentary, but I have to put it on and then just listen to the commentary and not watch the movie.
That's why I always have a hard time with the commentary. I never really watch or listen to commentaries because I just watched the movie and then now I've got to listen to the audio commentary with the movie again. I
wish you could just download a podcast.
Right, yeah, you should just be able to download the commentary.
Because I don't need to see, when they get to a certain scene, what's actually going on and talking about it. Especially if it's, a film that I really know. I can watch, a commentary on, The Godfather. I don't need the film playing to, know what they're talking about.
Right.
I'll know off the top of my head.
That would be interesting to listen to and see exactly, some of the things that we had questions about. Were they actually in the punk scene, or was this more of a cash grab to try to, do something that would appeal to a certain audience? Yeah. And then the other thing...
Well, because not only that, too, they're equating, new wave and punk to, damn kids being, demonstrative and bastardly, and they're all doing these, terrible things, so it's who's gonna go see smut like this?
Right.
Those goddamn fans of the Human League.
Yeah. Punk people. Punky people. Do you want to do a rating for this?
Yeah.
Let's do a rating. On a scale of 10...
Dumb blondes.
Are you going to do dumb blondes? I was going to do Kip Niven mustaches, but...
Okay, we'll go Kip Niven mustaches.
Kip Niven mustaches. On a scale of 10 Kip Niven mustaches.
Fake Kip Niven mustache.
Fake, yes. What would you give New Year's Evil?
Give it a 5.
Middle of the road.
It's definitely a mediocre film. It's not a good film whatsoever, but it's definitely not the worst film I've ever seen. Actually, I think, too, the whole idea and the punk new wave kids and the music and all that. That just adds so much fun to it. And for, though I like those moments of levity, of unintentional levity, just because, like we said, it is an hour and a half film, but it is a slog. And it's pacing. So those, I think, make it, me like, all right, I'll stick around because they're going back to the club. I do think Kip Niven's fun in his portrayal. I think, and I do think it's fun what he does. It's nonsensical and ridiculous, but I do think it's fun. Other than that, it's, the kills are bland. You don't get to see them at all. The notable thing is afterwards, you notice there's always an incision mark on a woman's breast.
Yeah, I mean that kind of comes out of nowhere.
It's like a giallo type thing, but all the kills are off screen, so it's very bland. And even when they do the body reveal, it's very bland. So there's no suspense, nothing to. If you're a horror a gore hound, you're getting nothing from this. But I think the idea is interesting. I think it's poorly executed. I think it actually could be a neat idea to remake this now.
Yeah, it's one of those films that I think they could actually get away with because there's not a lot of people.
There's not a following. So
yeah, there's not a lot of people out there that'd be like, don't do it. Don't remake New Year's Evil.
I think this film actually, and I'm not one for remakes, but I think this could. Because I do think the idea is interesting. The idea of someone killing people on New Year's as a way to get revenge, clean their slate, and be and because essentially what at the end of the film, Kip Niven's saying he's doing it today, and that's it. And then he's taking his son to the Rose Bowl.
yeah. Yeah,
watch USC in the bowl game, see if they win another national championship.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like he's doing this to start a new era for himself
and his son.
I don't think he thought it through.
No,
I don't think he thought it through at all. But he did want to start over. So, all right, I would probably give it a 5.5. I would say. I think in some ways it can be fun and funny and entertaining to watch, especially with a group of people. And if you were watching this on New Year's Eve as a party, I think that would be a lot of fun.
I think this would be a good background movie.
It would be a good background movie. You could even probably make a good drinking game out of it. But I don't think that it's particularly well made. The script isn't that great. Definitely has some issues with pacing. And I don't particularly think that they did a good job explaining the killer's motivations. And that's I don't often have a problem with killer motivations, especially if they just kind of leave them open to interpretation.
But this one
tries to explain it, so it does have that issue with well, you didn't do it well enough to what you were trying to attempt. So I think that becomes an issue within the New Year's Evil. And then, like you said, the kills are off screen, so a lot of that just becomes very poorly paced. And, I don't know. And you can only listen to Shadow so much before you get sick of it. We both prefer Made in Japan to Shadow. Yeah. I think Made in Japan songs are better. They're punkier. They're more new wave. And they fit better within what the film's trying to do.
Coming up next, the special, some two-tone ska, some new wave ska. That'd be great. I would love that. I love the specials.
Somewhere out there, the people in Shadow are listening oh man, they didn't like us as much as Made in Japan. And somewhere out there, Made in Japan's listening awesome. Fan number 3.
We'll look on Amazon to see if I can get me a Made in Japan.
There you go. Yeah. If you're Made in Japan, just write us. Let us know you're still out there. All right.
Still making that music.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to add about New Year's Evil before we call this episode?
No, I think that's it.
I think we touched on pretty much everything that there is to say about New Year's Evil. All right. What's next week?
Well, what episode we on?
This is 98.
So 99.
We're up to 99 next week.
99. What do you? I don't know. Oh, I know.
What's that?
Suspiria.
That's
Suspiria.
Phenomena.
My bad.
Well, here's the thing too. I do have the new Suspiria Blu-ray from Synapse, so that's also an option.
No,
I bought the Steelbook.
No,
It was an expensive $50. I have to get some use out of it at some point.
well, we'll do it eventually because that is a Dario Argento film. Before I even really knew about Dario Argento,
Yeah.
I did know Suspiria.
Yeah.
But
we've been promising Phenomena for a long time.
for about a year now. So
It only makes sense. And then we have a special episode for our 100th episode. So that's all we'll say.
So we'll be back next week, and then we start our every 2 week schedule.
Yeah, because we're gonna move into a bi-weekly schedule.
Which don't take that to mean twice a week.
That's right. Not twice a week.
Every other
week. Yeah. So we'll be back next week, and then it's a bi-weekly schedule. Just makes things a little bit easier for promotion and otherwise. So hopefully you'll stick with us. We have made a change to our feed. So if you listen on iTunes or Stitcher or anything like that, you're all set. That's going to roll over. But if you did listen to us on SoundCloud, we switched from SoundCloud to Podbean. Podbean is a better, better site for people who are doing specifically podcasting. And so it has a lot of perks for podcasting with Podbean. So we've switched over to that. You can find us at bloodandblackrumpodcast.podbean.com. That's our new home for all of our podcast episodes.
So they're all going to be transferred over?
They're all transferred over. Our feed is all set up. So, but like I said, if you listen on iTunes or Stitcher or anything else like that, that's just like a podcast catcher, then you're all set. You'll get all the updates and everything. So, you subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher or anything like that, and you'll get all of our episodes regardless. You can find us on what else do I want to do? You can find us on Twitter at Blood and Black Rum. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Blood and Black Rum podcast.
Yeah, we should just make an audio for the end.
Just tack it on rather than having me do it every time.
Yeah, it's every time.
It's true, because I forget sometimes. I forget my spiel. So,
well, there's so much social media. And,
I know.
Plugs,
Just tack it on in like 4 different places in the podcast.
Just have it randomly drop, like we talking and all of a sudden like it's Podbean.
That's right.
I just on Stitcher and
That's right. And then the last thing is we're on what's the other one? Patreon. Patreon.com/Blood and Black Rum podcast. You can donate to us. That's a monthly donation. So you can help us out, keep the podcast running. And you're right. We're also on the Cultsploitation Podcast Network. If you are interested, if you're a podcast, you do cult films or anything like that, you can write to us and let us know at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll get you set up on Cultsploitation Podcast Network. You can join us and join the ranks of good cult cinema podcasts. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with Phenomena, and we hope you enjoyed our New Year's Eve show.
Take care.